Across continents, the tides of belief are shifting with unprecedented speed. Recent figures reveal that the journey from Islam to Christianity is no longer a quiet ripple, but a rising current surging through the most unlikely corners of the globe. From the very heart of the Middle East to hidden valleys in Africa and distant hamlets in Asia, conversion rates climb like dawn, breaking over the horizon, igniting one of the fastest expansions of Christianity in the Muslim world. What fuels this remarkable surge? And why do these 10 nations stand at the forefront of such a profound transformation of faith? In this journey, we uncover the voices, trials, and victories of those who dare to cross the most defining spiritual threshold of their lives. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Number 10, Turkey. In Turkey, where continents and civilizations meet, faith is not merely belief, but a lifeline stitched into family honor, neighborhood trust, and professional standing. Since 1982, around 4,500 Turks have made the life-altering decision to leave Islam for Christianity. A number small against the nation's millions, yet each choice carries the weight of personal upheaval. For many, it begins in solitude. A Bible picked up by chance, a sermon found online, or a conversation that lingers in the mind. Weeks turn to years of quiet searching, hidden from even the closest relatives. But once the decision is declared, the fallout can be immediate. Family ties severed, friendships broken, jobs lost without explanation, and familiar doors closed for good. Christian worship unfolds in secrecy, in living rooms with curtains drawn, in rented apartments far from prying eyes, or through encrypted apps and closed forums. Believers find ways to connect. Some travel miles across Istanbul just to pray with a handful of others. Some have never met another Christian in person, clinging instead to digital fellowship. These converts often lead dual lives, the outward face shaped to blend into the crowd, and the inner life fueled by stolen moments of worship at dawn or late night. Within these hidden gatherings, every whispered hymn, every clasped hand is both an act of defiance and a lifeline of hope. Behind the figures stand vivid stories, a mother quietly teaching her children a new prayer, a student slipping a Bible between textbooks, an elderly man holding on to a vision that forever changed his path. Number 9, Albania. In Albania, a nation once sealed in the grip of the world's first officially atheist regime, faith was not simply restricted, it was erased from public life. Under decades of iron-fisted control, mosques and churches alike were boarded up, converted into warehouses or torn down. The very language of worship vanished from everyday speech, and generations grew up never stepping inside a sacred space. When that grip loosened, the change was electric. Long-buried spiritual hunger surged to the surface, and around 13,000 Albanians, many from Muslim families, embraced Christianity, reconnecting not only with a new faith, but with echoes of the nation's ancient Christian roots. Across villages and cities, abandoned churches were cleared of dust and decay, their cracked walls once silent, now alive with bells, hymns, and the murmured prayers of the newly faithful. In those first services, crowds arrived with a mix of wonder and uncertainty, unfamiliar with rituals their ancestors had practiced centuries before. Young people, free from the old climate of fear, became the architects of revival, forming communities, restoring relics hidden for decades, and returning icons to altars that had been used as storage shelves. For the elders who remembered when even whispering God's name was dangerous, the sight of overflowing pews and open doors was nothing short of astonishing. Number 8, Kyrgyzstan. Framed by the rugged peaks of Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan hides a quiet transformation rarely noticed beyond its borders. Since independence, nearly 19,000 to 20,000 Kyrgyz, most raised in Islam, have stepped into Christianity, a choice that cuts to the heart of national identity and family heritage. Here, to leave Islam is not simply to change belief. It is to risk the unraveling of one's place in society. In mountain villages, a convert may find neighbors turning away, jobs disappearing without explanation, and family gatherings heavy with unspoken tension. Even in the larger cities where cultures mix more freely, the shadow of stigma clings close. Worship often takes refuge in secrecy. A cramped apartment with curtains drawn, a remote hillside home lit by a single lamp, or hushed meetings deep in the valleys. Leaders, though lacking formal theological training, shepherd their small groups with resilience and compassion, guiding prayers whispered low enough to avoid the ears of those who might report them. Baptism, when it comes, is a daring act, sometimes carried out by a stream at dawn, far from the eyes of the community. For many, the journey unfolds over years of silent questioning and cautious searching, with young adults feeling the heaviest pull between loyalty to their families and the call of a new faith. Every act of perseverance becomes a signal to others, a subtle ripple that reaches restless hearts still weighed down by tradition, hinting that another path exists. Number 7, Morocco. Beneath Morocco's shimmering city lights and the winding alleys of its ancient Medinas, an unseen transformation is quietly taking root. Over the past decades, somewhere between 8,000 and 50,000 Moroccans, many from well-educated, urban backgrounds, have stepped into Christianity, a decision that carries consequences far greater than numbers suggest. For these new believers, the journey often begins through expanded horizons. Years of study abroad, exposure to different cultures, or friendships with Sub-Saharan African migrants whose open expressions of faith leave a lasting impression. In a kingdom where Islamic orthodoxy is guarded with unyielding vigilance and public displays of another religion are tightly restricted, the path forward winds through discreet gatherings in apartments, back rooms, and shuttered courtyards. Here, fellowship is built on trust strong enough to withstand isolation. To convert often means emotional exile, families broken apart, lifelong friends drifting away, and a future defined by the company of fellow believers who become a chosen family. Worship takes place in whispers, prayers rising like soft embers in the dark, each meeting a deliberate act of courage. In these hidden enclaves, resilience becomes second nature. Bonds form in secrecy, deep and unshakable, and the hunger for spiritual connection burns quietly but fiercely, a light that persists even in the longest shadows. Number 6, Algeria. In Algeria's mountainous Kabylie region, a quiet but relentless transformation is underway. Since 1992, nearly 380,000 people, many from proud Berber families, have crossed an invisible line, embracing Christianity in a place where faith is deeply bound to national identity. For them, this step is not just spiritual, it is a crossing into a world shadowed by risk and sacrifice. Here, the state's grip is unyielding. Churches can be shuttered overnight, pastors summoned for interrogation, worship services broken apart without warning. Laws against proselytizing carry severe penalties, and constant surveillance pushes believers into ever deeper secrecy. But the dangers stretch beyond government reach. A convert might lose a job, be cut off by relatives, or face the slow isolation of neighbors turning away. Faith survives in fragments, a nod across a market, a verse spoken under breath, a meeting in a candlelit room behind bolted doors, or beneath the shelter of ancient olive trees. Some are baptized in rivers at daybreak to avoid police notice. Others risk the ridicule of classmates or the loss of their livelihood. Within this pressure, courage hardens. Small communities knit themselves together with loyalty stronger than fear, where each whispered prayer becomes both defiance and hope. These are not fleeting impulses, but deliberate choices, forged through perseverance and the knowledge that every act of worship is a victory wrestled from the grip of adversity. Number 5, Ethiopia. Ethiopia, a land where the echoes of ancient monasteries mingle with the noise of bustling markets, stands at a meeting point between history and transformation. Christianity has long been woven into the nation's identity, yet in recent decades more than 400,000 Ethiopians, many from Muslim backgrounds, have embraced it anew, marking a profound shift in the country's spiritual landscape. In the capital, conversions often begin quietly, drawn by the magnetic voice of a preacher on the radio or the warmth of a small gathering. But in the wide countryside, where traditions are deeply rooted, change sometimes sweeps through entire communities. Whole villages gathering under sprawling acacia trees or within humble chapels, blending new worship with customs carried for centuries. Many of these stories are sparked by moments difficult to explain, vivid dreams, visions of Jesus, or encounters that stir something deep within. Yet such steps are not without cost. In some areas, new believers face rejection from family, suspicion from neighbors, and even outbreaks of violence. Still, the movement grows, bringing with it not only faith but songs, rituals, and folk traditions that infuse Ethiopia's ancient church with fresh color and vitality. Number 4, United States. Across the vast sprawl of American life, from skyscraper-lined streets to quiet rural crossroads, a transformation unfolds far from the spotlight. Over the past decades, at least 450,000 former Muslims have embraced Christianity, each story a deeply personal crossing shaped by unique challenges and motivations. For many Muslim immigrants and refugees, arrival in the U.S. opens the door to a rare environment of religious freedom, a place where laws protect belief and diverse voices share the same public square. Here, faith journeys may begin in unexpected ways. Midnight debates in university dorms fueled by the clash of ideas, an invitation to a Bible study where questions are welcomed, or a neighbor's steady kindness woven into daily interactions. The path is rarely simple. While threats to safety are uncommon compared to other countries, the emotional cost can be heavy. Strained family ties, a sense of being between two worlds, and the slow, deliberate work of building a new community. Yet in church basements, living rooms, and college chapels, new believers are reshaping congregations with fresh perspectives, their voices adding new notes to America's ever-evolving spiritual chorus. Number 3, Iran. In Iran, to leave Islam for Christianity is both an act of rebellion and a declaration of inner freedom. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, as the state tightened its grip with strict religious conformity and constant surveillance, an unseen movement has quietly gathered strength. Today, estimates place the number of converts between 500,000 and 3 million, making it one of the fastest-growing underground church networks in the world. The spark comes from many places: disillusionment with political and religious control, a hunger for deeper spiritual connection, and the magnetic pull of Christian hope. For some, the journey begins in the stillness of the night with a vivid dream or a vision of Christ, experiences so common they have become a quiet thread in Iran's modern spiritual story. Technology has become both shield and lifeline. Satellite broadcasts, online worship, and encrypted messaging knit hidden believers together across cities and provinces. In apartments with curtains drawn and doors bolted, house churches gather in groups of 3 or 4, speaking in hushed tones, always aware that discovery could mean prison or worse. Yet each new believer adds another link to a chain of resilience, a network bound not by buildings, but by trust and faith that grows in the shadows. Number 2, Nigeria. Nigeria's spiritual map is marked by deep divisions, and over the past half-century, roughly 600,000 people have crossed from Islam to Christianity. Many of these journeys begin in the country's northern states, where faith, politics, and community identity are tightly bound, and where violence or unrest often forces people to question the beliefs they inherited. For some, the turning point comes through stories that sweep across both crowded cities and remote villages. Accounts of miraculous healings, visions, or dreams that stir a search for something new. Pentecostal and evangelical movements have amplified this pull, offering passionate worship, tight-knit support networks, and messages of hope that cut through hardship. Yet the decision is rarely swift or simple. In certain regions, leaving Islam carries severe legal and social penalties, driving many new Christians to worship behind closed doors or move to safer areas. Family bonds may fracture, friendships collapse, and financial support vanish overnight. Even so, the movement is reshaping Nigeria's landscape. New churches rise alongside schools, clinics, and aid centers, extending influence into education, healthcare, and community welfare. This shift has sparked dialogue, and sometimes tension, between faith communities, altering the nation's cultural fabric and setting new terms for conversations about belief and coexistence. Number 1, Indonesia. Spread across more than 17,000 islands straddling the equator, Indonesia is a nation of striking contrasts, each island with its own languages, customs, and rhythms of life. Known as the world's largest Muslim-majority country, its daily heartbeat from Sumatra to Papua is shaped by Islamic tradition. Yet beneath this vibrant mosaic, an extraordinary and quiet transformation has been unfolding. Since 1962, over 6.5 million Indonesians have embraced Christianity, not through mass rallies or public declarations, but in private, often hidden moments. In university lecture halls where conversations linger after class, in households bound by interfaith marriages, and in remote villages where humanitarian work opens new horizons, faith quietly changes hands. Conversion here is rarely simple. In a society where local folklore, ancestral customs, and religion intertwine, new believers often weave these traditions into a distinctly Indonesian expression of Christianity. The choice can carry real risks, navigating unclear laws, enduring family estrangement, and facing social or even physical repercussions. Still, in certain provinces, the proportion of Christians has surged dramatically in recent years, defying expectations and drawing the attention of scholars and religious leaders worldwide. If these stories have stirred something in you or offered a new perspective, pass them on. And for more untold journeys of faith, resilience, and transformation, subscribe and be part of a community that uncovers the world's most extraordinary spiritual awakenings.